Now, when I started it, I really didn't think that it would, turn into such a fascinating and captivating watch, not just because of the aesthetics, but because of how funny and tongue-in-cheek and sort of it's just light, good thriller, mystery, humor. So how often do you see both of these genres kind of just mixing together? Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hi, how are you? This is Mahwash Ajaz as usual on my YouTube channel, and today we'll be talking about some of the best online shows that I've been watching, and I'll give you a few recommendations of why I'm watching them, what I'm watching, is it good, is it not good. There is some considerable buzz about all of these shows online, of course, on social media, because that's what the ecosystem has now become. But before I get into that, I want to talk about a little bit about the floods in Pakistan, how 1/3 of Pakistan is underwater. There are millions of people who are homeless, and there is a $10 billion plus hit to the economy, and the world is doing its part. So if you're in wherever part of the world you're in, I'm sure that there are registered charities and organizations where you can donate, as well as if you're in the UAE, there's the Emirates Red Crescent, and they are doing some fabulous work for donating relief in Pakistan, and they're helping as per the directions of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. So please, wherever you are, do your best, try to donate, try to do your best, and also don't donate to shady organizations. Donate and give your hard-earned and well-earned money to the rightful places so that they go to the rightful people. Remember that it's a crime to donate to shady organizations in the UAE, and you can't do that. But there are registered organizations in the UAE which are reaching out to the needy people. Emirates Red Crescent is doing amazing work, and please do your best in trying to help Pakistan in this very, very severe crisis that Pakistan is facing. Please remember that Pakistan is among the least percentage in that category where we are emitting harmful gases and harmful content in the atmosphere. But we are now facing the disastrous effects of climate change, and the world is speaking up, of course, but we need to also make sure that we are putting our money where our mouth is, and we are doing the best we can to help the Pakistani people in this severe crisis. I have donated. I hope that you will too. So this is just a small message for the floods in Pakistan. I really hope that wherever you are in the world and wherever you're watching this from, you will have done your part and will continue to do your part in helping the Pakistani people in crisis. Let's talk about the shows that I'm watching right now. I'm sure that these are already the shows that are either been on your list or have been on your list. I have talked extensively about Extraordinary Attorney Woo, which is one of my favorite K-dramas so far, whatever I've seen. And I think you should definitely not miss out on this one. The couple of other shows that I do want to talk about, and I think I'm totally obsessed with them, is number one is Only Murders in the Building. Now, when I started it, I really didn't think that it would, turn into such a fascinating and captivating watch, not just because of the aesthetics, but because of how funny and tongue-in-cheek and sort of it's just light, good thriller, mystery, humor. So how often do you see both of these genres kind of just mixing together? So Only Murders in the Building does that perfectly. Just when you think that, oh no, this is just gonna go and lose the audience or lose me, they pull you back in, and that's just some really clever writing there. It stars Steve Martin, it stars Martin Short, it stars Selena Gomez. They've also produced the show, and it's basically about this old building called the Arconia, in which all of these three people are living, and they have these very different and very complicated circumstances in life which also play a role in the story. And in the first season, all the first seasons are there. I don't know if wherever you're watching them, they're produced by Hulu. So in UAE, you can see it in a different way, because Hulu, I don't think, is in the UAE yet. So you can see them on a different platform, because there's Orsen, there's Stars Play, where all the HBO and Hulu stuff is there. And Only Murders in the Building is just a smart, clever, fun, empathetic, kind and wonderful show, and it makes you fuzzy and also makes you laugh, and it also makes you cry, and it also makes you feel for all the characters. It's getting a lot of critical acclaim, and I again went in with absolutely zero expectations, because I have to make it clear, I really don't think that all the shows that are there on for purely online viewing are great. And while we think that they are, we may think that, oh, this is outside the box and all of that. Not all of them hit the mark, and a lot of them just fall flat, and there are very few of them which actually make the buzz that they're supposed to. So I think this is one of the shows that deserves the buzz. It actually is a good show, and I really like it, so I definitely recommend that you watch it. So put it on your playlist and start binge watching. The second show I want to talk about is House of the Dragon. Now, House of the Dragon is the kind of show which is getting the responses where you get when people who love books, and then something is made on those books, a film or a series, and then people start saying, no, it will never be as good as the original. And that's what's happening with House of the Dragon. And of course, the Rings of Power, but we'll get to that. But this is what's happening. And it's a difficult task, of course, because when you have a great show, or if you have a book or an anthology which is loved by everyone, well, mostly everyone, and then you have a follow-up, so it's always an uphill task. So I think that it kind of like does it justice, especially in the first couple of episodes, which are out so far. So The House of the Dragon is an interesting show in that it does kind of keep in line with all the craziness of Game of Thrones, and how the politics and how the internal relationships and how the kingdoms are colliding and clashing, and even though we know what's going to happen in the future. So the prequel bit is it has its own pace and merit, and that is something which is kind of interesting. I love Matt Smith, and Matt Smith is such a fabulous actor, because there are characters which you play and then they stick with you, and then you never are able to get rid of them. Like Doctor Who is so iconic for Matt Smith, but when I saw him in so many other films that I saw him, and then I saw him in all the characters apart from Doctor Who, like The Crown, and now that he's playing this role in House of the Dragon, he is so good. So and he just falls into that role effectively, and he's kind of like this rebel without a cause, and that's always an interesting angle to explore. And from Prince Philip to a devil without a cause, that's like quite a reach, but he's done it, and that's why I'm such a big fan of his. Then you've got the whole dragon angle, the Rhaenyra angle, the Dracarys, and obviously there's betrayal, and there's blood and gore. That alone makes for enough of invitation to stick to a show like that. Still, it's a hard sell because of the fact that Game of Thrones is a tough act to match. But I really think they did a good job. I'm enjoying it. I know there are mixed opinions about it, but you look at the memes and you look at the way that people are responding. People are hooked. So there is some original idea to it, and there is some good pace to it. There is some, definitely riveting content on its own, which is why people are liking it. And I definitely recommend that you start watching it. Right, coming to the Rings of Power, and this is also suffering from the same existential dilemma as House of the Dragon, and that is that it's following up a really tough act. Now, Game of Thrones was not that old, but Lord of the Rings was like done and dusted, and you had the sequels and the whatever, and all the merchandise is also probably done and dusted. 20 years ago, I think the film released, and in fact, I recently finished watching all the 3 films, and I think that it is one of the finest films. And when I read the novels, I am a huge fan of Tolkien, and when I read the novels, I thought this is such beautiful writing. And I don't think modern writers, a lot of modern writers who want to step into fantasy fiction and all of that, are as good as Tolkien. I don't think anybody matches up to Tolkien in the last 50-60 years. Although, I mean, obviously, classically, you can look into some of the earlier writers and definitely compare. But Tolkien was a master of writing, not really George R.R. Martin. I think the books weren't that great, but Tolkien's prose was beautiful. And that is why I think that The Lord of the Rings had that magnificence to it, had to have that magnificence to it to sort of match up to that. And it was a tough act again to match up to. So you kind of have these steps where you have this great book, great films, and now this, online sequel thingy, and prequel rather, not sequel. Now, is it good? That is the question. Is it matching up to its predecessors? Obviously, it's based not on Tolkien's main anthology, but it is based on his work, and apparently they did take permission and all of that, and the family was consulted and everything, which is fine. That's great. And again, kind of like gives you hope that okay, it won't be a total disaster. But the question is it ready to stand on its own merit, and how necessary is it to milk a franchise this much? Is it even possible? So let's look into what's happening in the series, and then let's discuss these questions. Now, in the series, we look at what basically, how Isildur got the ring, and then, at that whole journey of Galadriel, and then how, there was an alliance between men and, elves and dwarves, and then the men and the elves were also, well, they had a love-hate relationship, and then the rise of the orcs as well is there, and Sauron was gathering the power, and he was there, and even though people thought that the evil had vanished, he was still there. He was still working on trying to get his power back. So in amidst all of it, there is the rise of obviously this man called Isildur, who will eventually get the ring, and then that is where the legacy of Aragorn will also come from later, what we will see in Lord of the Rings. Again, the question is not about what the canon is and what the originality of the show is, because we know the story, we know how it came, so there's not a lot that you can mess with it. The question is, what did you do with it? Now, in the first 2 episodes, which I've already seen, spoiler, I mean, if you don't want, I don't know why we're watching this if you don't want spoilers. The idea is that if the content itself stands on its own, then we can get into it, we can deep dive into it. There are 2 things here. The first thing is, there is a whole world created, and it's created beautifully. I think it's definitely up to the mark. And the second thing is, are the characters consistent, and is the storyline good? The second point is where the Rings of Power kind of wobbles, because you have a way too many characters, like too many characters. In the Lord of the Rings, or in the Fellowship of the Ring, or the Return of the King, well, those were where the characters continued, but more characters kept on adding and then removing, but not to this extent. Here, if you're adding more characters which are kind of like the hobbits, then somebody's like the elves, or well, not like the elves, but that connection of the older characters is there, and then you have this stranger dropping in from the sky. You don't know where that's coming from. So there are only few things where the true Lord of the Ring fans who are who remember the film, who've read the books, obviously not memorized them, because I haven't memorized them. It was a long time ago before I read the book. So if you see that, there's only a couple of things that register, but the rest are all new characters, and they keep adding new ones, and all these new characters have a lot to say. So it's a very hefty episode. It's a long episode, right? Around 50 minutes. So that's a lot to take in for the first couple of episodes. I really hope that they don't add more characters. I think this should be it, and this should be where you draw the line and say, okay, I'm only going to add 1 or 2 things here just for effect, and that's it. And this is how the story is going to move forward with these characters. But if they keep on adding more characters, I'm going to lose track. I'm going to lose who is who. So far, so good. I think that there's a lot of ridiculous amount of commentary about how black people should or should not have been cast. Why should it be just an all-white cast anyway? It's a fictional universe. It really doesn't have to be exactly the way that the world is now. I mean, there is literally a ring of power. Do you see that here? So why do you have issues with black people being cast as, I don't know, hobbits or elves? And I personally did think that the Lord of the Rings was way too white. So that is a good step. I think that's a great thing. And Galadriel's character was also a very powerful character in the film as well. So why not explore more on that? And people really have problems with that. Like, anyway, I don't understand these kind of, commentaries. I think that, sure, there can be greater, better black characters written in movies and in comic books. But if there is some revisionist stuff going on, yeah, sure, it might seem odd, because, you're like, where is this coming from? But it's not a problem. You shouldn't cancel something because of that. Okay, so the last show that I want to talk about is She-Hulk. Now, She-Hulk is obviously very comical, very funny, very light, has a deeper, more, modern, popular effect to it, where there's a woman, and then you have all these gender discourses about how women have to kind of suppress their anger, so she's automatically better than Bruce Banner, who was the original Hulk. So all of that is there. But again, is it a fun watch? Is it a good watch? Does it keep you riveted? Now, I really don't understand the main character breaking the fourth wall, because I don't think it's necessary, and then it really isn't serving a purpose, and it's kind of going against a lot of what the way that Marvel has done its work. Again, am I wrong? Tell me in the comments. But I feel like that is, apart from that, I think it's a pretty fun show. So if you're looking for something light and fun and easy, because I really didn't understand a lot of other, and understand or like a lot of other content that Marvel has been making for its streaming platforms. So this was actually good. This was actually fun. And I enjoyed the first couple of episodes, where this woman is an attorney at law, trying to be an attorney at law, but she is kind of roped in as a superhero because she ends up being a She-Hulk. So a lot of the questions about how society has a problem accepting people who are different is obviously a common running theme in Marvel content, in whether it's books, comics, or their TV shows, or now their online shows. So that's an obviously recurring theme, which is great, always great to see. And then you have these great appearances by Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. So I think that kind of banter really helps in elevating the show. But is it a legal show? Again, that's a question the protagonist asks, and we don't really have an answer. Is it really a legal show? Is it not a legal show? Is it going to lead up to a Marvel film? What's going to happen? I don't know. But it's fun. It's good. I would recommend it. I don't think it's bad. Again, contrary to what popular opinion says. What are the shows that you guys are watching? Let me know in the comments. Share with me your feedback about the shows that you've seen, whether you think they're great or not so great. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon as soon as the new video uploads. All right, so stay tuned. I'll be talking more about the shows that I'm watching, and I'll be talking about the Pakistani dramas that I'm watching, and of course any other thought that pops into my head. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.
Don't miss an update. Hit the bell icon and click on subscribe.